If workplace culture is your jam, you're in the right place. Check out this episode of Culture Secrets, the podcast dedicated to creating workplaces where both employees and the companies thrive.
Welcome back to Culture Secrets Podcast. This is where we explore how leaders build organizations where people thrive and cultures actually work the way they're intended to. I'm your host, Chellie Phillips. I'm the author of Culture Secrets, Secrets Leaders Use to Build a Value Culture. And each week, I try to talk with leaders who are helping organizations create workplaces where people feel engaged, valued, and energized. Today's guest is someone who has spent her career helping organizations do exactly that. Nicole Greer is the founder of Vibrant Culture and a leadership coach, speaker, and consultant who helps organizations build cultures where people work at their full potential. Through coaching, training, and keynotes, she focuses on developing leaders who can bring clarity, integrity, and energy into the workplace so teams can truly thrive. Nicole believes that work should be a place where people experience growth, purpose, and even joy, and that vibrant cultures are created where leaders intentionally develop people through coaching, mentoring, and strong leadership habits. Today, we're going to talk about what it really takes to build a vibrant culture, how leaders can unlock the potential inside their teams, and how intentional leadership behaviors shape the environments people experience every day. Nicole, I'm so glad you could come to the Culture Secret podcast this week. Do me a favor and tell my listeners a little bit about you, what your business is, and how you got started doing this.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm grateful to be here, by the way. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I started working when I was 16 years old, and I realized very quickly that there's a culture in every business. I don't think I knew that when I was 16, but I definitely figured it out when I was in my 20s, because I realized there are some places I like working and some places I don't like working. And what is the difference between these two things? Well, it's a lot to do with the core values that the people that own the company or own the organization are talking about and instilling in the behaviors and the activities and the work that we do. I also think it's important to work for a company that has an established vision. And the best company I ever worked for was this company called Summit Properties. I used to be in the restaurant business, and then I got into property management. And when I got into property management, I was recruited by a woman named Nancy Freeman. And she said, this is where this company's going. We're building new properties. There's going to be opportunities for you to become an assistant manager, to become a manager, and then you work in the home office someday. And I thought, you just met me. How do you know that I could do that? And she's like, well, I don't know that you could do it, but it's a possibility. And so she was talking career pathing from the get-go. This is exciting to a 20-year-old person who wants to make money, get married, have a family, buy a car, do a house, all the things, right? So I was like, wow, this is different. And so I went and I just worked my little butt off for those people. I worked so hard. And that's when you know you have a vibrant culture, is when people feel plugged in, they feel loved, they feel they're part of a bigger, better future for themselves personally and professionally. And so I try to help leaders get all that in place. So I'm just trying to repeat my own personal experience. And so Vibrant Culture does several things. One, we do executive coaching. Two, we do leadership and development training. I have a catalog that has like 50 programs in it that I do. I've just been at this a long time. And then I help do boutique recruiting and some HR auditing and HR process consulting. So that's what I do.
So I imagine you've seen a little bit of everything throughout your experiences, especially working with other organizations and everything. And so what's the one thing when you walk into a place that you go, oh, yeah, they need vibrant culture?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you two stories. One is I walked into an organization and it was dirty. The building, it was just dirty. It was old. It was worn out. I had driven an hour to this business, and when I got there, I was like, may I use the ladies' room? And they said, yes, it's down, around the corner. And so I went down there, and this is too much information for your listeners, but I had to hover while I was going potty because I wasn't putting my fanny on that seat, if you're with me right now. I mean, like, let's just be honest.
I am so with you.
Let's just be honest, okay? I was like, I would not.
Any female listener understands exactly what you're talking about right at this moment.
I was like, I would never work here. It is so dirty. I can't even imagine working here. And they had a lot of people that felt very comfortable there that had been there a very, very, very long time. But the mood, there's an old book called Think and Grow Rich, and in there, Napoleon Hill talks about you can feel stuff in the ether. And I could feel like kind of the complacency or something that was in the air. I mean, if we're not going to replace the carpet after 40 years, I mean, what are we doing for the employees? And the thing is this was a nice group of people, a very nice group of people, faith-based, wanting to do the right thing, but just kind of asleep at the wheel in terms of what people were experiencing inside that culture. And so I started helping them. But, I think environment's huge. I have this little diagram called U101, and it talks about how people are made, but there's several inputs into a human that gets them what I call lit from within so that they shine, that they work hard, that you have a vibrant culture. And one is environment. It doesn't have to be brand new, but it has to be clean. And then, the relationships that we have vertically in the business, horizontally in the business, how we're interacting with people, the level of communication and rapport. And then I also think that thing that impacts us is that we know how the business is doing. Like we're clued in, like somebody is telling us how the business is doing. To me, what I call that is open book management. Like that's what we call it in MBA school or whatever. So, I think those things really help build a vibrant culture. So that environment and whether or not the business is doing well and how people are talking to each other, treating each other is a dead ringer. What do you find? I bet you find the same things.
Well, it's true. Like you can tell a lot when you just walk into a place. Like you can feel the atmosphere a lot of times. It's so true.
Yeah.
One of the things I often see is a gap between what leaders say they value, but then what the employees actually experience in the workplace and everything. So what do you think causes that disconnect when somebody in their mind, they're thinking, I need to be doing all of these right things, but yet there's a disconnect with how it's coming out? What do you think causes that?
Well, it's integrity. That's what I would just boil it down to. So I, in my coaching work for many, many years, I used other people's models as a way to coach people. And I got my first little coaching certificate back in 2007. And then one day I woke up and I'm like, I think I have a handle on this now for myself. I have a thought process about how people are hardwired and how you can help them do better in their work. So it goes with my vibrant culture is I came up with the SHINE coaching methodology. So the first thing is self-assessment. And this ties into your question. Leaders need to turn the mirror inward and take a hard look at themselves and ask themselves this very important question, which is, what is it like to experience you? And so when we say the leader says one thing and the employees experience another, there's some kind of disconnect in the experience of the leader, right?
So self-awareness, don't you find that self-awareness is so hard for some people? It's kind of like you need that best friend that says, girl, you're not going out of the house like that. Really, are you?
Right.
In our mind, I'm looking in the mirror going, I look fabulous today. And so self-awareness is a struggle for some people to really actually diagnose what's going on, that I may think this is happening, but this is not really what people are experiencing when they experience me.
Yeah. Well, people justify, rationalize, they do all sorts of things. I'll tell you a really quick little story about a blind spot, because the self-assessment helps you remove the blind spot that you have. So I was working with these leaders and we were doing this experiential called group dialogue because we're trying to get everybody to listen to each other. Imagine that, everybody listening to each other. And so we're doing this little exercise called group dialogue. And so we took a subject matter and we said, do your homework on this subject matter because it affects everybody in this room and we're all in different departments. And so everybody's like, okay. And so they all come. And then I said, we're going to also practice active listening and we're going to practice asking powerful questions. And so I teed the whole thing up, and I'm like, and here's the thing, when we're delivering our powerful question or we're stating what we're stating, we're going to also do this thing called emotional intelligence. So everything's cool. Everything's all right. There's no reason to get fired up. We're just going to talk about this issue. Let's see how we do. And this woman in the group says, I have a question. I said, okay. And she says, now, Nicole, I listened to everything you just said, but sometimes I'm blunt. And things need to be blunt sometimes. I mean, we get to get to the brass tacks. So sometimes I may not ask a question. I may just tell somebody how I think about it. Is that okay? And I said, no. Did you just hear everything I just said? No, that's not what we're doing right now. No, you may do that when you go out and have a one-on-one or in a different group setting. But right now, we're going to practice, and see, this is the H in my SHINE coaching methodology, habits. We're going to practice the habits of just relaxing. Most companies I work with are not curing cancer. In fact, I don't think I work with a company that's curing cancer. Maybe if you're trying to cure cancer, I want to help you. Call me. Nobody is, we're welding things, we're manufacturing parts, we're firefighting, which is important, but we're talking about, what we're doing together versus the actual firefighting. I don't teach on that. It's we all need to just kind of relax. But this woman she's decided that her leadership style is blunt and to the point, and she's not going to tolerate this or that. And it's that's the very thing that is the problem with this team, is you're like that. And that's self-assessment, and that is habit work. So you do have to put people in these scenarios where they practice what they don't understand. Yeah.
So true. So the A in mine is accountability. And that's kind of a little
same answer
you're talking about, and so I look at that a lot. And, a lot of leaders tell us they want strong cultures, but I don't think they ultimately realize the role that they personally play in creating it. A lot of times we think, okay, I've made the decision, this is going to happen, and now everybody else is going to make it happen. So what are some of the behaviors that you think leaders consistently need to model if they want the culture to reflect a certain set of values?
Okay, that is a great question. Number one, I'm going to call it a mindset first, and then I'm going to give you the behavior. So the mindset is, I get an employee, my role is to develop this human to the max potential. And here's why. It makes all the sense, because the business is over here. It's on one side, and the people are here on the other side. The business =, people. You might have a product, you might have a service, whatever it is that you're selling, it's not going anywhere unless the human beings can sell it, market it, build it, package it, ship it, whatever the stuff is. So you have to develop the people. So if I have a team full of amazing, lit from within, shining people, I have a vibrant culture. And buddy, we're selling, we're shipping stuff out the door, and we're making money. We're making hard cash because everybody's working at performance. So if you think about, I'm the owner of this business, why do you have a business? Because the business produces profit, or it supports a passion, or there's some kind of big output you need, and the people within have to be developed. So how do you develop people? Well, the number one thing we have to do with people is we have to work them through SHINE. So I'll go back to it just for a hot second. So you need to constantly do self-assessment with your people. So there's this thing called employee performance management, which you're very familiar with, but very few companies do employee performance management. But what that is I sit down with my employees once a week. That's my dream, is I would have a company that would say, I'm going to do this come heck or high water. We're going to sit down once a week and talk to our people. If you can't do once a week, do twice a month. Okay. And if you can't do twice a month, at least sit down and talk to your people at least once a month. So 12 times a year. And when I sit down, I fill out a document as the employee that says, Nicole, how do you think you're doing? See, she's self-assessing. On the next page, it says, what habits are you working on? So I'll just tell you a quick story about habits. I was just coaching a young lady, and she does this thing all the time. It drives me crazy. I'm trying to get her to stop. She says, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And I'm like, stop doing that. It's almost like you need everybody to verify what you're saying is true. Just say, and that's my position on things, or that's how I see it, or this is how I want to move forward. Don't keep looking for approval that you're not insane talking about what you're talking about, because what you're talking about makes total sense, So there's little habits, right? And so it might be that you have an employee that does that, and you're like, stop doing that, okay? So whatever the habits are, being late, being self-deprecating. I have a lot of women that I work with still that are like, well, I'm not sure if this is right, but this is what I think. Knock it off. Just say, this is what I think. Leave out the I'm not sure if it's right part, because you're probably right, because you have a lot of expertise and you've been here 30 years, just say it. Then there's the I, which is integrity, right? So integrity is about character. Okay. And integrity is such a funny thing. Everybody thinks they have it. And here's the truth about integrity. It comes and it goes. And I'll just say it for me. Like, Nicole Greer is not always the best version of herself, because I'm a human. And there are moments where I mess up. I say the wrong thing. I don't think I'm like that woman that's like, I'm going to be blunt. I'm not like that. But sometimes I'm like frustrated, and you know it. I'm not being emotionally intelligent every second of the day, right? So really, really looking at character. And so I use a tool called the Tilt. And it is a self-assessment that helps people look at the quality of their character instead of just their personality. Like, we've all taken the DISC and the Myers-Briggs and all the stuff. And I love all that stuff. I'm certified in all that stuff. But taking a hard look at our character, like, what do you need? I need to be more patient. I'm so impatient with people. I overtalk people. I interrupt people. And so it's habit work and it's integrity work. And then next right steps between this time we sit down together and the next time that we get together. What are you going to learn? What are you going to do? What project are you working on? What is your next right step? And then there's energy, right? Energy is everything in a business. Stuff only gets done if somebody applies energy to it. And so there are 6 energies. And I can talk about that or not. Developing those humans that are your direct reports is the magic to a vibrant performance culture. If Nicole has a leader that sits down, talks to her and says, you need to be working on this, you need to be working on that, and I love you, and I know you can do it. You know what I do? I jump up from my desk and I go prove her right. So I get very passionate about that. I'm sorry.
I love it because, I say all the time, like, thriving cultures create thriving businesses.
Amen.
And it's like, I come from the utility world. And so, people think nothing of $300,000-$400,000 for a bucket truck, but you ask for a professional development program that might be $10,000. It's like you've asked for the world kind of thing. And so,
right.
And so it's like you want to but if you invest in these people, they're going to do what they need to do to make all this other work for you and everything else. And so I get this, and I appreciate your enthusiasm because
Yay!
I feel like we are like beating the drum here together for the same kind of thing.
That's exactly right.
That people have to take ownership and they have to take initiative. What does that look like practically for employees? So say they're walking through your program and we're on the habits piece of it. And so you're wanting them to develop that. So how do you get them to take ownership of that habit development?
Okay, the leaders to take ownership of the habit development.
Yeah, or like the employee that they're working with. Like if you've worked with your leaders and inside your organization, and you're like, okay, you need to work on these things. We've all agreed that this is the habits that you need to practice. How do you get them bought in? How do you get them to take ownership of that and be like, yes, I need to do that so I can be reflective of that out to the other people that are working with me?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you now. Okay. So I have this thing called the accountability formula. So if you have a pen, everybody write this down. Let's say that I am doing employee performance management. And one of the things is that I need to work on my patience. Okay. I will talk over people and I interrupt them. So I'm the leader and I ask the employee sitting in front of me, I say, I think that is awesome self-awareness. Now, first of all, we're reinforcing SHINE like a mad woman, a madman, because we want people to start self-coaching. Like that's when things are really lit, is when you can take somebody and you can move them out of the corporate office and into another state or another country, and they start up that location for you. I mean, and they know how we're rolling. They know how we roll. We shine. We're vibrant culture. So the first question for that employee would be, what are you going to do to practice patience? So it's one thing to say, be patient, which, I don't know how many times have you been told that in your life? I've been told that a lot. Be patient, Nicole. How do you practice it? So that person, we don't give her the answers, and now we're coaching, right? So we say, what do you need to do? And she's like, I need to literally put my hand over my mouth in meetings and sit there and think about not speaking until she is finished. Like, I'm going to physically change the position of my body, which that's called somatic, right? So I could do that. I could ask one of the other gals or guys in the meeting to give me a wink or kick me under the table or pinch me if I start interrupting people. Whatever the thing is, but have them come up with a strategy to be patient. Instead of speaking up, I'm going to write down what I would say. And when she's done speaking, then I will read what I wrote down. Okay, whatever the thing is. So the second question in the accountability formula is this. When are you going to do this? When are you going to start? What's the timing on this? Okay, so people have to be committed to some kind of time frame for you to hold them accountable. So you ask your employee, what is the time frame? When are you going to start this? And she says, the very next meeting. You say, okay, well, you'll be in 2 meetings because we're going to meet in 2 weeks. So I want you to report back on how you did in both those meetings. And so the person says, okay. All right, so now we have a time frame. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk about it, and see, this is where the leader might fall off the wagon, is not keeping track and not talking about it 2 weeks later. And don't miss this. Accountability is the heavy lifting of the leader. The leader has to remember all the dang things that they're asking people to do, and they have to follow up. Accountability is actually on the leader. Being accountable is on the employee. So accountability is owned by the leader or the manager or whatever, the human in charge. Now, the third question is, how will I know that you are successful? You notice that is an appreciative inquiry question. How will I know that you are successful? Please don't fail. So, I will tell you in our meeting how I am successful. I will send you an email. I will put a post on Teams. I will call you on the phone, whatever it is. But there has to be a point in time where the two humans come back together. And that is where accountability fails. 2 humans with 2 minds, with 2 brains, 2 mouths, 2 and 4 ears have to come back together and talk about it and say, that was a success. That was a success. Here's how you can improve next time. Or that was a success. Just keep doing what you're doing. That was a failure. What are you going to do differently next time? It's the coaching moment around accountability that makes it magical.
So I want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because leadership now has gotten more and more where it is more of a coaching mindset than a dictatorial kind of mindset that a lot of us kind of, when we first got into the business world or whatever, it's kind of what we experienced, a hierarchical of this is you just do what I say because I told you to do it kind of leadership mindset. So why do you think coaching is so important for businesses to bring into their organizations, and even dive a little deeper into that about even like working specifically with some of your leadership with personal coaching and everything to develop personal styles and personal skills that they can actually use to better the whole organization?
Yeah. Okay. I love what you're saying. So here's the thing. There's 4 responsibilities that a person who's leading has. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 2 and then focus on coaching, or I'm going to talk about 3 and focus on coaching. So the first one is leading people. And so people are very confused between leading and managing. Leading is, hey, come on, everybody, we're going over there. Here's the number we're going to hit. Here's the thing we're going to build. Here's the bigger, better future. I find that is not articulated very well in many places. It's just like they're going through the motions to make the widgets. It's not this exciting, sexy future, right? And notice when I talked about Nancy Freeman, she's like, we're building properties all over the Southeast. We're hoping to have 90 by the end of 2000. That was a long time ago. And we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be growing that, and we're going to be starting to do fee management. I was like, that sounds great. What's that? What's fee management? I didn't even know. I was 20. I didn't know nothing. So that's leading. And so you have to, and people are scared to talk about the future that way. I don't know why, because they think they have to be right or certain it's going to happen. But you don't have to be certain. You can say, this is what we're doing. We're hoping it'll turn into this thing. Because that's how life works. You got to make up a vision and then make it happen. Now, how do you make the vision happen? Is you manage stuff well. So there's the second responsibility. So now I'm managing process, I'm managing people, I'm managing policy, I'm looking at a scorecard, looking at KPIs, key productivity indicators. Okay. And that's where most people are. That's all they're doing. They're looking at that stuff. Okay. That's really important stuff, but not the most important. Then the third responsibility is mentoring. And I bet you have this. I have this all the time. Leaders will say, how come they don't know? They should know that. Why don't they know? They don't know. How come they don't think the way I think? Yeah. And the thing is people just don't know everything. Like when Nancy Freeman's telling me we're going to be doing fee management, I'm young and so I'm stupid and I think she doesn't know that I don't know. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking I got to look that up when I get home in a dictionary. So, I didn't know what this stuff was. And so being so authentic to just say, I don't know. Right. And so some people need to be given what I call dots. So we have this head up here, and in our head, we have neural passageways. And the distance between these neural passageways are like little nodes. And so I call them dots. And sometimes people are missing dots. So that woman that's like, I'm blunt. And I'm like, oh my God, she's missing a dot. I don't have time to fiddle around with why doesn't she have this dot and was she raised by wolves? I mean, I don't get into all that. I'm just like, oh, she's missing the blunt dot. Okay, so let's talk about being blunt for a minute. You can be straightforward, you can be a straight talker, but you can't use your words like a weapon. And that's what blunt.
To be a jerk. Yeah.
Right. It's like, don't be so stupid. That is being blunt. Okay. Or you could say, oh, that's not the way I see it. I see it this way. That's a way to say the same thing without hitting somebody with your words and making them feel dumb. So anyway, so that's mentoring. And so leaders, you have to slow down and give people dots. And don't miss this. If you sit down with people, and I'm saying sit down with people once a week, they're like, what in the world are we going to talk about every week? You're going to develop them. You're going to teach them. You're going to give them dots. You're going to show them a P&L. You're going to take them for a walk. You're going to explain something that they don't understand so they can be as smart as you. So there's the mentoring. Now, coaching. You said, why is coaching so important? Here's why. Once people have dots, we want them to use them. And coaching is facilitating a conversation where people connect the dots. And they go, oh, that's why we do that. Exactly. Right? So if you talk about business acumen, which is really, really important, we don't do much of it. I was so lucky with that Nancy Freeman. I adore her. Nancy, if you're listening, I love you. So she sat me down one day and she's like, this is called a P&L. This is revenue, this is expenses, and this is called net operating income. And I'm like, net operating income, what's that? And so you don't know till you know. And so she's like, well, you subtract the expenses from the income, which is obvious if you have an MBA. But if you don't have anything but a high school degree, you may have never heard these words before. So you're learning language, you're learning philosophy on business, being an entrepreneur. I didn't know this stuff. And she's like, that net operating income. And I'm like, what's all them numbers down below that? She's like, oh, that's cash flow and this and that. It's like, wow, this is complicated, But when you teach somebody how to read a P&L, that's mentoring. And then later on, when Nicole Greer's P&L is printed after she's run the apartment community for a month, and you stick that P&L under her nose and you say, how did we get to this number? What did you do to increase this number, Nicole? I don't know. I just worked hard, But then she says, well, let's go line item by line item. How'd you get the revenue number up? Well, we leased a lot of apartments last month. And she's like, exactly. When you lease those apartments, you get them in, you get the, as my dad would say, get the heads in the beds and the butts in the seats. Then this number gets bigger. Then we have lower electric bills because now the resident is paying the electric bill. You charge them a pet fee. I mean, she's going through. And I'm like, oh. So now when I go to lease an apartment, I'm like, you got pets? There'll be a pet fee. And we really need you to move in as soon as possible. These apartments are in high demand. So now I'm a better salesperson. So coaching is helping people understand how the business works and then how they show up. So if somebody was to say, what is it like to experience Nicole Greer as an apartment manager? Hopefully, in year 2, Nancy would say, Nicole really knows how to make that P&L sing. She's ready to be a regional. She's ready to do what I did with her own region. Give her 5 managers at 5 apartment communities and let her go to work. That is how you get a vibrant culture. And so the other part of that is, I was talking about energies. One of the energies is financial. When I got promoted to regional, I made a boatload more money than I did running one property. It's like, so it all goes together. So you have to teach people how to be a business person.
So I love that you call yours vibrant culture. And I love that you use energy in what you do, because like I said, I come from the utility world and
yes,
resonates with me and everything like that. And so
yeah,
talk about the energy that a leader brings with them. So how does that person, the energy that they bring with them, how does it impact the engagement that they get from their team and the buy-in that they get from their team when they're trying to shift cultures?
It's huge. It's linchpin stuff. Okay. So it's the E and shine. And so there are 6 energies that the leader brings and that the employee brings. And the goal is to stoke all these energies. So I'll go through them. The first one is intellectual. Now, here's the thing about Nancy Freeman. She was not excited like Nicole Greer is behaving right now. She wasn't that person. She was pretty solid, pretty serious, but like she had a vibe like, I'm teaching you this so you can be successful. And she never said, I love you or I care deeply about you or anything like that, but I knew she did because she was bringing emotional energy underneath it and spiritual energy. So intellectual is one, emotional is one, and spiritual is one. So emotional energy is the seriousness that she had was kind of telling me, Nicole, if you want to have a career and make good money and support your family and do your stuff, this is serious. And so I would actually calm down when I was around her. I was like, Miss Nancy's talking to me right now. Behave yourself. Like I would talk to myself like that, but like I never thought she wasn't spirited about things. You know what I mean? And that's the third energy. And and I'm not talking about religion right there. What I'm talking about is like, I love this company. I care about our mission. I care about our vision. I care about your vision and your mission for your career. And you could feel her want to save me. Okay, so I'll throw that little spiritual thing in there. But she was like, if Nicole doesn't learn this, she'll be in trouble. Right? So that matches the other stuff. So, she wanted to help me. And I really felt that. And it was genuine. And leaders do have to sometimes fake it till they make it, Like some people get promoted. They should have never been promoted because they don't like people. If you don't like people, you should do some thing in the corner with Excel or something. I don't know what you should be doing, but you should not be leading people if you don't like them or you don't care about them, their future. Okay, so intellectual, emotional, spiritual. The next one is physical. So physical energy is huge. That's why we all have wellness programs in our benefit package, And I'll tell you, we need to feed people better. Like I go so many places and do training and they're like, we're having pizza. And I'm like, really? Again, some more? Like, let's have a salad with a grilled chicken and like water with a cucumber and a lemon in it. Let's do that instead. I don't care if they complain. It's better for them. All right. Then we should take walks. We should have walk and talks. We should walk. We should have Fitbit contests. We should do all sorts of things around physical energy. People who feel good in their bodies work harder. That's just the truth. If your knee hurts and your butt hurts and your finger hurts, it's hard to work. The next energy is social. You have to bring people into a room and have them connect. You got to slow down to go fast. Everybody's like, we don't have time for training. I got news for you. You don't have time to not train. You are spinning your wheels and working twice as hard as you need to because you don't train. So there's that. And the last thing is the energy of money. And here's what I know. The more profitable, because see, I'm not saying do all this fluffy stuff and not make money. I'm saying develop your people, you'll make more money. Promise. We develop the people, and they are working harder, being more innovative, doing more stuff. And guess what? Now we have money for bonuses. And I believe in bonuses for merit. I don't believe in you've been here 100 years, you get a whatever, you get a watch or a plaque or something. I mean, that's fine. You can do that, but also have merit, because there'll be two people in a job. And dare I even say this, there might be one that's been there 20 years, but they are doing the same thing they did 20 years ago. And you'll have somebody new, and they are learning everything under the sun and killing it. You have to give that person more money because they're better. And if you do employee performance management and you're keeping track, you will be documenting how they're doing better. So it's not a debate. But Susan's been here a long time. I care about Susan, but we have sat with her. We have coached her. She doesn't want to do anything but answer the phone. Well, then she gets the pay that you get paid for answering the phone. Now, this other gal, Joanne, she's going to get paid for answering the phone. And when the phone's not ringing, she's doing 17 other things. She gets more money because she's more valuable to us. But if you're not doing it in a structured way, then you're going to get in a mess.
So I'm going to kind of wrap us up a little bit. I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you.
Oh, I like rapid fire. Let's go.
So, in your experience, what's one leadership habit that has the biggest positive impact on culture? And what's one that can quietly destroy it?
The best is asking powerful questions, and the worst is not being seen by the people that follow you.
What advice would you give a leader who genuinely wants to build a healthy, vibrant culture, but feels overwhelmed by the responsibility of doing that?
Get a coach who can help you get a plan in place to strategically implement it on a Gantt chart and make it the same thing you would do as if you were releasing a new product. Let's release a new culture just like we were releasing a new product.
Every employee answered this one question honestly. What's it really like to work here? What are the top 3 things that they could say that you would know that they had built a vibrant culture in this organization?
I love who I work with. I know I have a future here, or I'm about to get promoted if there's talk of promotion growth. And it's fun.
I like that you use the F word. That's not a bad word.
It's
in
the best F word ever.
So, what's the leadership lesson that you've had to learn the hard way?
Not everybody can be saved.
That's hard for people like us, isn't it?
Oh my God, it slays me. But I have had people circle back around like years later and like reach out to me, and they're like, oh, I should have listened to you, kind of thing. If you get as old as me, you'll start having people circle back around. It's like I really screwed up, when I didn't listen to you. And then they're like, "Do you have a job for me?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." But anyways.
And I always close out by asking a question similar to this. And so for you, so if a leader were listening today and they wanted to improve their culture starting first thing tomorrow morning, what's the very first thing that they should do differently?
They should get out of their office and they should go walking around. There's this really old book called The 1 Minute Manager, and I still love it. And it says one of the things you need to do is manage by walking around. So I'd go for a really good long stroll, maybe an 8-hour stroll, and go through the different departments, check in on people, talk to them, be very observant, come back and look at your notes. It's the first thing I would do.
I love it. When I was writing my book, I talked to someone, they told me to watch the parking lot. How people come to work in the morning and how they leave in the afternoon. And so if they sit in their car until 7:59 and 30 seconds and they've got to clock in at 8, then something is wrong. Or if they make their mad dash at 4:59 because as soon as the door shuts, it'll be 5 and they can't wait to get out of the parking lot, then there's something else that you need to look at too. So I love that. Get out of your office and see who your people are. Right. Nicole, I have had such a great time talking to you today. Tell my listeners how they can find out more about you, how they can get a hold of you. Tell them where to find you on social media. Give them all the scoop.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much again for letting me be on the show. So go to vibrantculture.com. My phone number is in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage, and you can call me and I'll answer the phone unless I'm working with a customer or a client. So leave a message. I'll call you back before the end of business. I'm on LinkedIn. I put all of my things on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out. And I have a newsletter on there, a newsletter that I put out. You can also sign up for a 30-minute talk with me. You're like, I want to talk to her. Just go right onto that homepage, and there's a place where you can sign up. You can speak with me directly, and we'll hang out.
Well, I highly recommend they have the talk with you because it's been fabulous chatting with you today. And I appreciate your time and you taking time out of your schedule to share what you're doing and how you're making an impact.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I love the reminders that building a vibrant culture really starts with leadership, with the choices we make, the energy we bring, and the way we invest in the people around us. You've shared so many practical insights that leaders can start applying immediately, and I know my listeners are going to walk away with some great ideas. If you'd like to connect with Nicole or learn more about her work helping organizations create vibrant cultures, you can visit her website at vibrantculture.com. Nicole, thank you again for being part of the Culture Secrets podcast. I've truly enjoyed our conversation. And thank you to everyone listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to follow the Culture Secrets podcast and share this episode with someone who's working to build a stronger culture where they lead. Remember, culture isn't being built in big moments. It's built in the small leadership choices we make every day. Until next time, I'm Chellie Phillips.